Okay, here we go. So we're going to make some notes on Act 1, Scene 2. We're going to annotate our text and we're going to make longer notes in our Cornell notes so that whatever we annotate makes sense. So this will be a bit of a departure from the lesson so far. I'm literally going to just talk you through it and not really ask for much input. It's Friday afternoon and you've just completed your first week at QE and you're probably a bit tired. Iago has left Rodrigo with Brabantio. He's wound Rodrigo and Brabantio up to fever pitch, and then Iago has hot-footed it to the Sagittary, where he knows he will find Othello, hopefully newlywed. And when we meet them, we again enter the middle of a conversation. And Iago is actually telling Othello here that he's so fed up, annoyed, angered by what Rodrigo has been saying about Othello, that if he wasn't a better person, he'd have killed him. He says, I've killed men in war, and that's fair enough. But I do believe that you should not commit a contrived murder, because Iago says he has a conscience. Really, Iago? But if he didn't have that conscience, he'd have stabbed him 9 or 10 times under the ribs. We hear Othello speak for the first time in the play. "'Tis better as it is. Nay, but he prated and spoke such scurvy and provoking terms against your honour, that with the little godliness I have, I did full hard forbear him." And then he asks, "Are you fast married?" Fast means secure, not has it just quickly happened. It's important to Iago that they definitely are married, otherwise he's going to look like an idiot, because this is what he's been telling everybody has happened. So he's having to make sure. Are you sure you can see that on the board okay, everybody? You don't need the blinds closing or anything. Okay. And he feels it's important that he should perhaps remind Othello that the Magnifico, meaning the chief men of Venice, yes, if we look in our Arden notes, but really specifically we're talking about Brabantio there. He is much beloved, and hath in his effect a voice potential as double as the Duke's. He's reminding Othello that he shouldn't underestimate the power and influence that Brabantio has. Right? I'm going to keep looking up, and if you have missed something, or you've not misunderstood, or you want me to clarify something, you're going to stick your hand up and shout, "Stop." Yeah? Okay. "He will divorce you or put upon you what restraint or grievance the law, with all his might, to enforce it, will give him cable." We've got a nautical reference there, like the cables, the ropes that are used on ships. He uses quite a lot of these throughout the text. We might want to keep a bit of an eye open for them. And just a reminder that when we discuss vocabulary in this way, that's just a reminder that it's that's AO2 analysis. Othello is very confident that whatever Brabantio says about him will be allayed by the fact that Othello has done a lot of great service for Venice. And I like this image. "My services shall out-tongue his complaints." we're literally in the actions speak louder than words realm here, aren't we? Unfortunately, it's a bit of a sign of Othello underestimating the power of Iago's language further on. And he basically says here, look, it's not in my kind of nature to boast and brag about what I've done and who I am. But if I have to, I will remind the Duke that I am born of royalty, and that I've done good things. And then he says, for no Iago, but that I love the gentle Desdemona, I would not my unhoused free condition put into circumscription and confine for the sea's worth. He's given up the freedom of the sea, of the life that he's had. He's kind of partially giving that up in order to become Desdemona's husband. Okay? A sense, in a way, maybe of sacrifice. But look what lights come yond. Who is on their way? Iago suspects that it's Brabantio and, armed guards. You had best go in. Like the coward that he is, he suggests that Othello, like he would, should hide. So that's an example of what we put in our Cornell notes there. Iago is a coward, gives cowardly advice. Okay. That's not an option for Othello, is it? Not I. I must be found. My parts, my title, and my perfect soul shall manifest me rightly. I've got nothing to hide. I've done nothing wrong. He wouldn't understand the Radiohead song, would he? Told you I was cool. And then he says to Othello, is it they? Is it Brabantio and his men? Now, I don't know where I got this from years ago. A critic, another teacher, a video that I'd watched. But it was suggested, and I think this is really interesting, it might have even been a director actually talking about his version of the play. Othello's a lot older than Desdemona. He's an older man. And we've talked about the motif of sight, haven't we? And how that's going to come up a lot. But what some people, critics, directors, have interpreted this as meaning is that also Othello's eyesight is failing. And therefore he's dependent on Iago to tell him what he's seeing. I mean, that's good, isn't it? You like that, don't you, Holly? Yeah. By, I don't know if it's Janus or Janus, I think no. The two-faced god. My granddad had a great saying of people who were two-faced. He'd say, they've got more faces than the town clock. I like that. The servants of the Duke? And my lieutenant? The goodness of the night upon you, friends. What is the news? And Cassio is there to say, the Duke needs you immediately. In fact, he needs him haste, post haste. It's just good, isn't it? Is it just me who likes these little bits of, like, imagine you get a phone, Julie, you're needed in the principal's office. Haste, post haste. Want to see me for dust. And this is where we start to bring in the public and political world of Venice. Here, Othello is needed in his role as general. Something's going on in Cyprus of some heat. Tell you who I'm not seeing in this little scenario. Desdemona. Where's she? What's she doing? Interesting. I've told you before that the question mark is a really powerful piece of annotation for any literature. And it's not just thinking about where is Desdemona, it's thinking, why has Shakespeare chosen not to have Desdemona in this scene? So Cassio reiterates, look, the Duke sent about 3 search parties out for you. We couldn't find you anywhere. And Othello says, well, 'tis well I'm found by you. I will but spend a word here in the house. I just need to pop inside for a minute and go with you. So he's obviously going back in there to talk to Desdemona, isn't he? And then Cassio says to Iago, like, what's Othello been doing here? We've already discussed that Iago has some pretty strange views, comments, observations to make about sex. Iago could simply have replied here to Cassio, he's married Desdemona. Isn't that great? We're so happy for him. Instead, he goes straight into the mixing of a sexual and another nautical meaning the sea, metaphor. He tonight hath boarded a land carrack. If it prove lawful prize, as in if Brabantio doesn't get them divorced, he's made forever. So there's 3 things going on there. The first thing is that this boarded, it has a very sexual implication. Board her, woo her, assail her, Sabella, if you're going back to Twelfth Night. So that's, he goes straight into the sex. Then there's this idea of her being, once again, a prize to be won. She's dehumanized. And if it prove lawful. So the analogy here is to boarding a pirate ship and taking the treasure. We get a lovely example, and we can see it here, of shared lines. And I'll speak more about that further on. I do not understand. He's married to whom? Married to? Enter Othello. So they have this lovely back and forth that's all shared. But I'm left wondering, why doesn't Cassio know who he's got married to? Cassio's supposed to be his best friend. Why doesn't he know? Is he feigning ignorance? Is he pretending he doesn't know? Because he's not sure if Iago actually knows? Or is it genuine? And if it is genuine, why hasn't Othello told him? So Othello comes out. They're about to make their way to the Duke to find out what's going on and what is the need for them to head to Cyprus, when another troop turns up, and this time it is Brabantio and Rodrigo and other officers. There is a kerfuffle. We're back to the word thief. Iago instantly wants to have a fight with Rodrigo. But Othello will not be baited. Keep up your bright swords, for the dew will rust them. So I'm not... He's calm, he's level-headed. He's not going to be goaded into a fight. Good signor, so he's speaking there to Brabantio. You show more command with yours than with your weapons. He's saying, Brabantio, I respect you. You're my elder. Just talk to me. Oh, thou foul thief! Where hast thou stowed my daughter? Interesting. Reminds me of Brabantio saying, how got she out? Now, let's have a look at this long section together. Because actually, when we start to be guided by punctuation, these long sections are nowhere near as intimidating. So, all of this is one bit. I mean, basically, he says the same thing 3 times here. Then there's this bit. I know you're all really envious of my pastel highlighters. Oh, but now, oh, I think I'm going to have to spoil it all with a bit of bright green. And then a bit of Minecraft green for good measure. So, in this first section, he reiterates this idea that she has had a spell put on her. She's in chains of magic because she is a maid. She's a virgin. She's pure. And it's not just Othello that she would shun. She has been opposite to marriage. She has not shown any interest in marrying anybody. And yet she has run to the sooty bosom of such a thing as thou. It's unnatural for a white virgin to run to a thing. You must have practiced on her with foul charms and abused her so much that she's physically incapable, that weakens motion of escaping. And this, he says, gives him grounds to apprehend or to arrest you and take you before the Duke. Lay hold upon him. We all okay so far? Does anybody want me to just go back over anything? It might have just been that you were writing something down as I was talking. Anything? I mean, it's a pretty straightforward scene. Iago tells some lies. Cassio seems confused as to what Othello's been up to. And then Brabantio rocks up being unbelievably racist again. Now, at that point, sorry, I should have said, so when he says subdue him at his peril, that's when people start to like draw swords again. It looks like there's going to be another fight. And Othello says, hold your hands, stop, don't move. Both you of my inclining and the rest. So those of you on my side and the others, all of you stop. Were it my cue to fight, I should have known it without a prompter. I love that line. It tells us about just how level-headed this man is. And that's why, this is the tragedy, that this is going to change completely. We're going to see this man so racked with doubt, self-doubt, jealousy, self-loathing, that he's going to have fits. He's going to strike his wife in public. Even before we've got to him killing her at the end, he's going to act so differently from how we see him here. And that's a hard thing for a lot of actors playing Othello to pull off. I've seen this play a lot of times. Do you know who Lenny Henry is? I saw a version at Trafalgar Studios with him maybe about 10 years ago now in London, and he played Othello, and he didn't have the gravitas at the start. He didn't have that bearing. At one point he was like skipping around the stage with Desdemona, and it just was a bit, I don't know, laughable and cringy. Certainly when he was trying to kill her at the end. Yeah. And he says quite, simply to Brabantio, where will you that I go to answer this your charge? What do you want? Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? I'll go. No problem. To prison. That's where, to prison, till fit time of law and course of direct session call thee to answer. Othello is now in a bit of a predicament, but he's going to try and help Brabantio save face. He can't go with Brabantio, can he? Because the Duke wants him, and the Duke outranks Brabantio. So he puts it to him quite calmly. What if I do obey? How may the Duke be therewith satisfied, whose messengers are here about my side upon some present business of the state, to bring me to him? He puts the ball back in Brabantio's court. It's like, gives him that bit of power, really. Again, this is smart thinking, isn't it? And one of the officers backs him up and says, look, it's true. And then he adds, and your noble self, I'm sure, is sent for. Awkward if he hasn't been. How? The Duke in council in this time of the night? Bring him away. Mine's not an idle cause. The Duke himself or any of my brothers of the state. That's it, white men closing ranks, cannot but feel this wrong as 'twere their own. And, as is typical, we end with a rhyming couplet. And I guess we have to decide whether this is also a use of hyperbole, or is this just a reasonable, I don't mean that we think it's reasonable, but does Brabantio think this is a reasonable feeling to have? If such actions, like a black man marrying a white woman, may have passage free, if he's allowed to get away with this, then we, as white men, might as well be black slaves and pagans, non-Christians. And what's being equated there, obviously, is that, we'll just say black men specifically, we certainly don't care about black women, that black men are pagans. They cannot be Christians, in their view. In their view. Okay.